The galaxy trembled on the brink of chaos. For millennia, the Arkle Empire had ruled with an iron fist, their vast territories stretching across the stars, their influence unmatched. But now, the empire was crumbling. Internal divisions, corruption, and an unrelenting enemy, the enigmatic and ruthless Krath coalition, had brought the once mighty Arkle to the edge of extinction. In their desperation, the Arkle Council convened in the ancient capital of Ios, a world of towering spires and glistening crystal seas. The council hall, a colossal chamber carved from the heart of a mountain, was filled with the echoes of heated debate. The most powerful Arkle leaders, regal, towering beings with skin like polished obsidian, argued over their last best hope, an alliance with the human alliance from Earth, a backwater planet in a distant arm of the galaxy. The Arkle had long viewed humanity with a mix of disdain and curiosity. Humans were primitive, warlike, and unpredictable. Hardly the kind of allies the Arkle would have considered in their prime. But with the Krath closing in on all sides, the Arkle had no choice but to seek help wherever they could find it. High Chancellor Vera, the most influential member of the council, stood before the assembly, his golden eyes reflecting the flickering light of the chamber's ancient luminescent crystals. "We must consider the humans," Vera intoned, his voice resonating with authority. "They are a young species, yes, but their history is one of conflict and resilience. They have survived and thrived in a harsh and unforgiving environment. Their military might, though primitive by our standards, is formidable. If we can harness their strength, we may yet turn the tide against the Krath." The chamber erupted in murmurs of discontent. The Arkle prided themselves on their superiority, and the idea of allying with a species they considered little more than barbarians was almost unthinkable. But Vera pressed on, his gaze sweeping across the assembled leaders. "The Krath are relentless. They have outmaneuvered us at every turn, using tactics we never anticipated. They are unlike any enemy we have faced before. If we do not adapt, we will be annihilated. The humans may be our last hope." After hours of debate, the council finally agreed. An emissary would be sent to Earth to negotiate the terms of the alliance, and the humans would be offered a place in the Arkle military. Earth was a world of contrasts, blue oceans and green forests, sprawling cities and barren deserts. To the Arkle emissary, Valen, it was both beautiful and primitive, a world that had yet to fully harness its potential. Valen, a tall and imposing figure clad in the flowing robes of his office, arrived on Earth with a small delegation, landing in the heart of the Human Alliance's capital, New Geneva. The human leaders were waiting. President Ava Morgan, a shrewd and pragmatic leader, stood at the forefront, flanked by her top military commanders. General Marcus Hayes, a veteran of countless conflicts, studied the Arkle emissary with a mix of curiosity and caution. Valen inclined his head in a gesture of respect, his voice smooth and formal. "President Morgan, General Hayes, I bring greetings from the Arkle Empire. We seek to forge an alliance with your people, one that will benefit us both in these trying times." Morgan raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. "The Arkle Empire, the most powerful force in the galaxy, seeks an alliance with Earth? Forgive my skepticism, but this is a surprising development." Valen nodded, acknowledging the sentiment. "I understand your reservations, President, but the Krath coalition poses a threat unlike any other. They are relentless, and they have driven us to the brink of collapse. We have heard of humanity's resilience, your tenacity in the face of adversity. We believe that together, we can overcome this enemy." General Hayes crossed his arms, his gaze piercing. "And what do you offer in return?" Valen gestured to the sleek, advanced technology his delegation had brought with them. "Weapons, starships, advanced medical technology, everything you need to elevate your civilization to the next level. And of course, a place of honor in the galaxy once this war is won." Morgan and Hayes exchanged a glance. The offer was tempting, but they both knew there was more at stake here. Humanity had fought hard to secure its place in the galaxy, and they would not be used as cannon fodder in someone else's war. "We'll consider your offer," Morgan said finally. "But understand this, humanity is not a tool to be used and discarded. If we agree to this alliance, it will be as equals. We will not be anyone's pawns. Valen inclined his head once more. Of course, President Morgan. The Arkle Empire respects strength and honor. We seek partners, not pawns. The negotiations were swift, and within days the alliance was formalized. Human soldiers, engineers, and tacticians were integrated into the Arkle military, and the combined forces prepared for their first joint operation against the Krath. The planet Valtora was a desolate wasteland, a once thriving world reduced to rubble by the relentless advance of the Krath. The Arkle and their new human allies had chosen this world as the site of their first major engagement, a desperate attempt to halt the Krath's advance and buy time for the Arkle to regroup. General Hayes, now commanding a joint human Arkle task force, stood on the bridge of the Arkle flagship, the Viranis. The ship was a marvel of engineering, bristling with advanced weaponry and protected by shields that could withstand all but the most powerful attacks. But even this mighty vessel would be tested against the Krath. "Status report," Hayes barked, his voice carrying the authority of years of command. An Arkle officer turned to him, his expression tense. "The Krath fleet is advancing rapidly, General. They outnumber us 3-1. Hayes nodded, his mind racing. The Krath were known for their overwhelming numbers and brutal tactics. They would throw everything they had at the Arkle, hoping to crush their spirits before the battle even began. But Hayes had no intention of letting that happen. "Prepare the fleet for engagement. We'll use the plan we discussed. Draw them in, then hit them hard with a surprise attack." Valen, who had been observing quietly, stepped forward. "General, I must admit, I am unfamiliar with some of the tactics you have proposed. They are unconventional, to say the least." Hayes allowed himself a grim smile. "Unconventional is what we do best, Valen. The Krath think they know how we'll fight, but they have no idea what we're capable of." As the Krath fleet closed in, the human Arkle fleet held its ground, waiting until the enemy was within range. Then, at Hayes's command, the fleet split into 3 groups, each moving with precision and speed that took the Krath by surprise. The first group, composed of human frigates and Arkle cruisers, engaged the Krath head-on, drawing their fire and luring them into a narrow corridor between 2 massive asteroids. The Krath, eager to overwhelm their opponents, pursued with reckless abandon. The second group, a mix of human and Arkle bombers, circled around the asteroids, using the debris field to mask their approach. As the Krath forces poured into the corridor, the bombers launched a devastating barrage of torpedoes, striking the Krath ships from behind and trapping them in a deadly crossfire. The third group, led by the Viranis itself, hung back at the edge of the battlefield, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the Krath fleet was fully committed to the fight, Hayes gave the order, "All ships, fire at will." The Viranis unleashed a storm of energy beams, missiles, and railgun slugs, tearing through the Krath ranks with brutal efficiency. The Krath, caught off guard by the ferocity of the attack, struggled to regroup, their formations collapsing under the relentless assault. Valen watched in awe as the Krath fleet began to break apart, their ships falling one by one. "I underestimated you, General," he admitted, his voice filled with a newfound respect. "Your tactics are extraordinary." Hayes nodded, his expression hard. "We've spent centuries fighting wars on Earth, Valen. We've learned to adapt, to think outside the box. The Krath may be powerful, but they're predictable, and that's their weakness." The battle raged on for hours, but by the end of the day, the Krath fleet was in full retreat, their ships scattered and broken. The human Arkle alliance had won their first victory, and it was a decisive one. Word of the victory at Valtora spread quickly, and across the galaxy, the Krath began to feel the sting of their defeat. The Arkle, emboldened by their success, launched a series of counter-offensives, striking at key Krath strongholds with renewed vigor. But it was the humans who truly began to shine. Their unconventional tactics, honed through centuries of conflict on Earth, proved to be the perfect counter to the Krath's rigid and predictable strategies. Human soldiers fought with a tenacity and ferocity that left their enemies reeling, while human engineers and tacticians devised new weapons and strategies that kept the Krath off balance. As the war dragged on, the humans began to take on more and more of the burden, their presence growing stronger with each passing day. They forged alliances with other species within the Arkle Empire, building a network of support that extended far beyond Earth. And through it all, General Hayes continued to lead, his strategic brilliance earning him the respect of both human and Arkle alike. He became a symbol of humanity's strength and fortitude, a leader who refused to back down in the face of overwhelming odds. After years of brutal conflict, the war finally reached its climax. The Krath, weakened by countless defeats and internal strife, had retreated to their homeworld, a fortress planet surrounded by an armada of warships. It was here that the final battle would be fought, a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The human Arkle fleet, now bolstered by ships and soldiers from dozens of allied species, assembled in orbit around the Krath homeworld. It was the largest fleet ever gathered, a symbol of unity and strength in the face of a common enemy. On the bridge of the Viranis, General Hayes stood with Valen and President Morgan, who had come to witness the final battle herself. "This is it," Hayes said, his voice steady. "The Krath are cornered. They'll fight with everything they have, but we're ready." Valen nodded, his expression grim. "We must be prepared for anything. The Krath are desperate, and desperation breeds unpredictability." Morgan glanced at Hayes, her eyes filled with determination. "We've come too far to turn back now. The galaxy is watching, and we must show them that we are capable of more than just survival. We are capable of victory." The battle began with a thunderous exchange of fire, the sky above the Krath homeworld alight with the explosions of ships and weapons. The Krath fought with a ferocity born of desperation, their ships swarming like angry hornets around the human Arkle fleet, but the alliance held strong. Hayes directed the battle with surgical precision, coordinating strikes and counterstrikes that kept the Krath off balance. Human and Arkle ships fought side by side, their combined firepower overwhelming the Krath defenses. As the battle raged on, the Viranis pushed closer to the planet's surface, its weapons targeting key installations and defensive emplacements. The Krath, realizing that their defeat was imminent, launched a final desperate assault, throwing everything they had at the human Arkle flagship. Hayes remained calm, his voice steady as he issued orders. "Hold the line. Focus fire on their command ships. We take them out, and the rest will fall." The Viranis shuddered under the impact of the Krath assault, its shields flaring as they absorbed the brunt of the attack. But the ship held firm, its weapons blazing as it cut a path through the enemy fleet. Finally, with a devastating barrage of firepower, the Viranis struck the Krath command ship, a massive dreadnought that served as the heart of their fleet. The dreadnought's shields collapsed under the onslaught, and moments later, the ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, taking with it the last vestiges of Krath resistance. The Krath fleet, leaderless and broken, began to retreat, their ships fleeing in all directions. The battle was over. The war was won. With the fall of the Krath, the galaxy entered a new era. An era shaped by the alliance between humanity and the Arkle. The Arkle Empire, though battered and bruised, had been saved from destruction, and the Krath coalition was no more. Humanity, once a backwater species on the fringes of the galaxy, had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. Their unconventional tactics, ingenuity, and sheer determination had turned the tide of the war, and their role in the alliance had earned them the respect and admiration of species across the galaxy. In the aftermath of the war, the human alliance took on a new role as a key player in galactic affairs. Earth became a center of diplomacy and trade, its influence growing with each passing year. The humans, once underestimated and overlooked, had become leaders, shaping the future of the galaxy in ways that no one could have predicted. As for the Arkle, they recognized that their survival had been made possible by their unlikely alliance with humanity. High Chancellor Vera, who had once been skeptical of the humans, became one of their staunchest allies, working closely with President Morgan and General Hayes to ensure that the peace that had been won was preserved. Together, the Human Arkle Alliance ushered in a new era of cooperation and unity, one that would stand as a testament to the power of hardiness, resourcefulness, and the strong heart of those who refused to give up, even in the face of overwhelming odds. And so the galaxy, once torn apart by war and strife, began to heal. The scars of the past would never fully fade, but in their place new bonds were forged, bonds that would ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. For the humans, it was a new dawn, a new chapter in their history. They had fought, they had struggled, and they had emerged victorious. And as they looked to the stars, they knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, filled with endless possibilities and challenges. But the humans were ready. They had proven that they could stand with the best, that they could rise to any challenge. And whatever the future held, they would face it together, as equals, as allies, and as a force to be reckoned with. The last stand of the Archal had not only saved an empire, it had reshaped the galaxy, and the name of humanity would forever be remembered as the species that turned the tide of war and brought about a new era of peace and prosperity.